good evening. And welcome to Counsel today with Shanrae, and I am Shanrae. As you come in, please like and share. I do not own the rights to this music. I do not own the rights to this music. Welcome to Counsel today with Shanrae. Please like and share as you come in. This is our theme song for the month. This is our theme song for the month. Yes. All right. Welcome to Counsel today with Shanrae, and I am Shanrae. Yes. Good evening, everybody. Hey, Jose. Hi, Tanita. How are you? Hi, Christy. Look, is it Christy? Hi, Superwoman. How are you? All right, this is our theme song for the month. I do not own the rights to this song. We're going to go on and get started soon. Yes. All right, I'm going to go on and cut it off. I'm going to cut it off. All right, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Counsel of the Day with Shanrae. And I am Shanrae. All right. This month is a month that I've dedicated to emotions, as you heard the song, to emotions. And we've been describing the 3 different components of emotions. And so before I get started, I do want to read my disclaimer, and we're going to move on because this 30 minutes goes by very, very, very quickly. All right. So let me go on and get started. And I'm so happy to see everybody. Tanita, Christy, thank you all for coming on this evening. And as you come in, please like and share. One thing I do want to let you all know that if there are any past or previous lessons or seasons that you all have missed, and maybe you want to revisit or look at it, or just look at it or revisit. I do want you to know that I have my own YouTube channel, so you can YouTube me at Shanrae Price, and please subscribe. And you can just pick and choose whatever season that you want to watch. So, all right, I wanted to get that out of the way. Hi, Sheem, how are you? Good to see you. All right, let me start with my disclaimer. And it says, please be aware that due to the nature of the technology that I'm using, there can be no assurance of confidentiality when using this online service. And it should be noted that due to the changes in policies, that all replies are used as advisory and informational only, and will not constitute an official determination. Information provided by myself or another counselor, another spiritual leader, or someone with life experience are subject to the limitations of current and available material. I see Thurman Thornton. Hi, Jeanette. How are you? My cousin Jeanette. The final responsibility for successfully achieving a goal does rest with you, the individual, and information online is designed to be helpful. However, this information does change frequently, and it is recommended that you yourself will consult another physician, another specialist, another religious leader to aid in your overall behavioral wellness. So welcome once again to Counsel of the Day with Shanrae, and I am Shanrae. We are on season number 5. I started out initially saying that I didn't know how long this was going to last. However, the Lord leads me, I was going to do this. And this is our 5th season. So this is a good thing here. So I would like to, again, we're on the 3 components of emotions. And this is part 1, and then I'll hit part 2 on Thursday. I am a Christian counselor. My degrees came from Ashford University, my degrees. So I am a degree counselor. I have been counseling for a number of years now. So I just always want to let you all know that I am a degree counselor. All right, so let's start with our scripture for the month. And I am reading from the Amplified Bible version. And it's from Romans 12:2, and it says, and do not be conformed to this world any longer with its superficial values and customs, but be transformed and progressively changed as you mature spiritually. by the renewing of your mind, which is focusing on godly values and ethical attitudes, so that you may prove for yourself what the will of God is, that which is good and acceptable and perfect in his plan and purpose for you. All right, so again, that is Romans 12:2, the amplified version. I want to let those know that are not familiar with my platform. This is an open forum. You are more than welcome to ask questions or put your comments in there. We're just asking you, please be respectful to this platform. And if someone would like to come in live, I will bring you in live if I'm able to with the platform. Sometimes it doesn't allow us to do it. But we want to go on and get started. Hey, Singleton, how are you? Moving forward, Singleton. All right, so y'all know I start with my definitions. And tonight's definition I want to define is behavior. Behavior. And so the Webster's Online Dictionary defines behavior as the way in which one acts or conducts oneself, especially towards others. The way in which, an animal or a person acts in response to a particular situation or stimulus, or the way in which a natural phenomena or a machine works or functions. So those are the three separate definitions of behavior. It's good to see you, Singleton, of behavior. So I'm also going to give you the definition of attitude. All right. And so attitude is a relatively enduring organization of beliefs, feelings, and behavioral tendencies towards socially significant objects or groups or events or even symbols. Okay, a psychological tendency. This is the second definition of attitude. A psychological tendency that is expressed by evaluating a particular entity with some degree of favor or disfavor. So those are the two definitions of attitude. Now, this week, we're going to be focusing on behavior. And if, again, this is an open forum, please, you can ask your questions or you can actually give some life experiences. Tina said, what platform are you using? I'm using Facebook. Is there something going on? Can y'all hear me? Can you hear me? I'm using Facebook. Can you let me know if you can hear me or not? Okay, you said what platform am I using? All right, I'll wait for the response. I hope you can hear me. All right. So structures of this week we're going to be talking about our behavior and our attitudes. So I want to focus in on structures of attitudes. All right. So attitudes structure can be described in okay. All right. That's good, Superwoman. Thank you. All right. Attitudes structures can be described in terms of three different components. All right. So number one, the first component of the structure of an attitude is called an affective component. And this involves a person's feelings, a person's emotions about the attitude object. For example, I'm scared of spiders. And I am very uncomfortable with spiders. Okay, awesome. Thank you, Tanita. All right, and I'm not comfortable with spiders. So that's the affective component, and that was giving you an example of the affective component of attitude, your attitudes. The second part of component structure of an attitude is behavioral. And it says, or cognitive, C-O-N as in Nancy, A-T-I-V-E, cognitive component is the way, the attitude that we influences how we act or behave. So again, this is the way that our attitude that we influence or have influences or how we act or how we behave. For example, the example here says, I will avoid spiders and scream if I actually see one. And that's what most people do. All right, so that's the behavioral. That's the second structural part of an attitude. The third structural part of an attitude is your cognitive component. And this involves a person's beliefs, the knowledge about an attitude object. For example, I believe spiders are dangerous. because we were given examples about spiders. The first example was I'm afraid of spiders. That was the affective component. The second one is I will avoid spiders and scream if I see one. That's that behavioral part of it. And the third example is I believe that spiders are dangerous. And that's that cognitive part of it. All right. So this model is known as the ABC model of attitudes. Okay. Again, A is for affective component. B is for your behavioral part of it, and C is for the cognitive. All right. So one of the underlying assumptions about the link between attitudes and behavior is that of consistency. This means that we often usually expect the behavior of a person to be consistent, right? With the with the attitudes that they hold. So we do, a lot of times we do expect people to be consistent with the type of attitudes that they hold. And this is called the principle of consistency. But the principle of consistency reflects the idea that people are rational and attempt to behave rationally at all times, and that a person's behavior should be consistent with their attitudes, right? Hey, Esther, how are you? Sister Esther, how are you? Well, while this principle may be a sound principle, it is clear that people do not always follow this consistent type of behavior, right? And then some people do, and you know what I'm saying. And it may not be very logical, but they're seemingly quite behave in illogical ways. For example, a lot of people do smoke cigarettes knowing that smoking causes lung cancer and heart disease, but they do it anyway, okay? Like people who are obese, they know if you overeat and if you eat high-fat foods and you don't exercise and you're going to be obese, and it's going to cause health issues with you as well. So there is evidence that the cognitive and the affective components of behavior do not always match with people's behavior. All right. And so if you want to know more about this, this type of study, because you all know I do my studies, this study is by Lapierre. L-A-P is in Paul, I-E-R-E. Lapierre is the therapist or the psychologist who studied this and gave sound research on this. All right. So let's talk about the strengths of our attitudes. The strengths of our attitudes, and then we're going to expound from there. So the strengths of our attitudes, which an attitude is held, is often a good predictor of people's behavior or even of your own behavior. So the stronger the attitude, the more likely it should affect people's behavior. And you know, let's just be honest. When we have attitudes, it's going to affect our behavior, right? If something that we salty about, something we not happy about, and if we got a real nasty attitude, a lot of times whoever is right there in our midst is going to they're going to get the blows of that nasty attitude. They're going to be talked to real crazy. They're going to be eyes being just real all distant and something like that. So this is factual here. Hi, Christine. How are you? This is very, very factual about the strength of our attitudes and often, which is a good predictor. So the stronger the attitude, the more likely it will affect your behavior. Your attitude, so our attitude strength, and I'm moving quick because this 30 minutes is going by like this, guys. But if you have any questions, come on. If you want a comment, come on in. So the attitude strength, Tanita said, yes, you're correct. And and especially us with women, because we're hormonal. We're just naturally hormonal. So we could be good all month long until that them 14 days, 7 to 14 days in there. When our hormones are off, and a lot of times we can be agitated within our own selves, not even understanding what's going on with our own selves. And then we find out later on that we were just like on edge for those 7 to 14 days. And everybody, our family, Christine said, yes, you're right. If our family, our children, our spouses, our mama, our dad, our pastors, whoever, our bosses, whoever we're around, a lot of times that's when they know that a woman is cycling, do her monthly, is because the hormones are off, a little touchy, a little bit touchy and things like that. So our attitude strengths involve importance / our personal relevance. Okay. and which refers to how significant the attitude is for this person, and relating to their self-interest or their social identification or their values. So if an attitude has a high self-interest for a person, example, it is held by, it's going to be extremely important to them. Hey, Chipper, how are you? So as a consequence, the attitude will have a very strong influence on a person's behavior, like what I was just saying. And by contrast, the opposite of that is an attitude will not be, if it's not important to a person, then it does not relate in any way to their lives. So, they hormones, they're not going to be all up and in their feelings. And so they can be more, you can deal with people a little bit more when something is not considered totally too personal to that person. Okay, so another strength of attitudes is their knowledge aspect of the attitude, and how much a person knows about the attitude object is what it's called. Hey, Tammy, the attitude object. People are generally more knowledgeable about topics that interest them, whether it's your family, it's your job, it's your church, it's your organization, anything that is involved you. If it's more important and it interests them, they are likely to hold stronger attitudes, a positive attitude or even a negative attitude, as a consequence. So attitudes are totally based on direct experience, and they're more strongly held and influence behavior too, more than attitudes that are formed indirectly. For example, the hearsay, like whatever we see or hear on television, we know that it's like, oh my God, if we hear something great on TV, okay, wonderful on the news. If we hear something that's negative, it's like, oh man, when is this gonna stop? When is it gonna stop? But because it's not directly related to us, it's not going to affect our attitude in a stronger way, in a stronger type of way. So I'm going to summarize what I just said. The closer the incident, the event, the occasion, the whatever, the closer it is to our hearts or to us, the stronger the attitude we going to give, whether it's a good attitude or a bad attitude. If one of my grown folk come in here and say, Mommy, I'm getting married, my attitude is going to be like, all right, okay, it's going to be like that. Or opposite, Mommy, I just broke up with so-and-so, we're not together. And I'm like, oh, okay, all right, So the closer the event or whatever the situation is to you, your attitude will be stronger if it's more personal to you than something that's indirect, something that you may have heard or something. So now we're going to get on the functions of our attitudes. So attitudes can serve functions for each individual, right? Here are 4 different functions of our attitudes. Knowledge is the first one. So attitudes provide meaning or knowledge for our lives. The knowledge function refers to our need for a world which is consistent and relatively stable. And this allows us to predict what is likely to happen, and so gives us a sense of control. Attitudes can help us organize and structure our lives and our experiences. Knowing a person's attitude helps us predict their behavior. For example, knowing that a person is religious, we can predict that they're going to go to church if they're religious, and 9 times out of 10, they are going to go to church. Some people are religious and they don't go to church, but 9 times out of 10, they will. So the first function, the first of the 4 functions of our attitudes is knowledge. The second one is self/ego expressive. Our ego, our self-expressions. All right, so the attitudes that we express, number 1, they help us communicate who we are, or actually what we're feeling at this time. Self-expression of attitudes. Audrey said, good evening, Shanrae. Sorry I'm late at work. We'll look at the replay. Oh, no, Audrey, go on. I understand. Thank you for chiming in, and have a wonderful evening. Just be safe at work. Be safe, and thank you even for watching the replay. God bless you. All right. So our self/ego expression of our attitudes, they help us to communicate who we are. Self-expression of attitudes can be nonverbal. Like for instance, your facial expressions or your physical, your bodily expressions, or even some people. I was watching. Hi, Mama Robinson. How are you, Mama Robinson? Um, I like to watch the comedian not Carlton Banks. I call him not so Carlton Banks, but not Carlton Banks, and he plays all of these different characters in church. He plays the pastor, the pastor's wife, the musicians, the granddaughter, the daughter. He plays all of these different attitudes. He said, I can watch it for a few minutes. Okay, Audrey. All right, don't get in trouble at work, but thank you. And I saw a spoof by him today. Just popped up on my one of my feeds, and one of his characters, Sister Bun. He plays a ghetto. She kind of hardcore ghetto church girl named Sister Bun. And so Sister Bun was sitting there with a couple of other her girlfriends from church. Miss Squinchy, one of them can't see, so she's squinching all the time. And then you got the real docile one with the red hair, and she's always shouting and screaming. Ah! So she was sitting there. Sister Bun was talking about the pastor's daughter. And she said she be wearing them little short skirts. She be wearing them little short skirts and shouting and flipping over so everybody could see her underwear. And so the one with the red hair who's always screaming, she says, "Ooh, stop being so petty." And so Sister Bun had a t-shirt on that says, "I am not the Father, I am not the Son, and I am not the Holy Ghost. I am petty." I hollered because she had her answer on her shirt. That's what that's what I'm talking about right now, that non-verbal. But she did both verbal and non-verbal expression there, that self-ego expressive. And I laughed. I mean, she let you have it both ways, non-verbal and verbal. All right. Okay, so therefore our attitudes are part of our identity. All right, and help us to be aware through the expressions of our feelings, beliefs, and values. All right, so our third part of our the functions of our attitudes is adaptive. Okay, so if a person holds and or expresses socially acceptable attitudes, other people will reward them with approval and social acceptance. Like you're gonna have a bunch of friends, or you're gonna have a group of your clique. You're gonna have your clique. And so, for example, when people flatter their bosses or instructors, and believe it, or they keep silent, and if they think that an attitude is unpopular, again, expressions can be nonverbal. It can be nonverbal, but attitudes then are to do with being a part of a social group and the adaptive functions, which helps us fit in socially. So people seek out other people who share their same type of attitude. People who develop similar attitudes, and then those that are hanging out with them develop similar attitudes to those that they are like. I am a movie type person. I love movies. Now, I can't do the scary movies. I can't do that because I still have nightmares. I know I'm all the way grown. I'm all the way grown, but I can own up to it. I still have nightmares if I'm watching something that's really creepy. Really, really creepy. But I love this movie called Suicide Squad. And the theme song for the Suicide Squad, in the song, the person is trying to warn a friend of theirs who wants to hang out with his crowd of people, trying to warn them that this is not the type of crowd of people that you want to hang out with, because they are murderers. They're, anybody that watched the movie Suicide Squad, you understand what I'm talking about, because it's based around characters like bad guys. But the theme song specifically, it's where he's trying to warn his friend, you don't want to hang out with the type of people that I hang out with, because they're not good element people. But this outside friend was trying his best to get in with this clique with him. And in the end of the song, he says, it turns out that you actually fit in. You're just like us. this crowd. So he spent most of the song trying to warn the person, this is not the type of friends that you want, because we're not good element type of people. But he found out at the end that that person was exactly like them. That's why he was trying to get in. So like this says here, that people seek out others who share their same type of attitudes and their same type of beliefs and stuff like that. And even if they're not all the way like that, if you hang out with somebody long enough, you are going to start doing similar things as them. I remember years ago in church, because y'all know I'm a Christian. Years ago, I was working with a pastor and his wife. And so when she would get up and address the church, she would always sniff a lot. She would sniff, but she had severe allergies and she took her medicine and everything. But she always, sniffed a lot because, the medicine didn't really work that well for her. So I noticed, hey, Sandra, I noticed that it was another woman who was in the ministry. She started patterning herself after the pastor's wife. She cut her hair like the pastor's wife. She started wearing clothes like the pastor's wife. And then whenever she would get up to speak and address the church, she started sniffing too. And I was younger. I was like really young, maybe 20, 21. And I used to sit there and say, well, we know why she's sniffing, the pastor's wife, but why is she sniffing when she get up? Again. Again, what is that old saying? Affiliation. What is it? Help me out, Superwoman. Hey, Sandra. I love you too. What is it? Affiliation causes assimilation or something like that. And it's an old saying that your affiliation a lot of times causes a lot of assimilations. So, with people. So this is really this is proven here. This is a proven fact here, that if the more you hang out with somebody, the more you all will tend to act a lot alike. And the final function, this is the fourth function of the attitude, is your ego defensive. So we had our self-ego expression. Now we're going to have our ego defensive-ness. And that's number 4. And it says the ego defensive function refers to holding attitudes. Well, you're holding grudges, you're holding attitudes that protect your self-esteem or that justifies your actions that make us feel guilty. And so I have a friend girl, Miss Sheila Moore Piper. She always said, this is her motto: your action caused a reaction. So because they acted that way, I reacted this way. And it sounds hysterical, but it is very, very, very true. Our ego defensive part of our attitude. A lot of times people's actions you do react from other people's actions, and so we've been trying to work on our emotions, and we've been trying to work on these emotions, and not just jumping, because it doesn't make you feel good if someone just out of the blue seems like they're attacking you or they're just being nasty towards you. So the first thing you're going to do is you're going to defend yourself. Some people may just walk away and leave, but a lot of us New Yorkers, oh no, we're gonna tell you how we feel. We're gonna let you know just like that what we feel. A lot of times we're not gonna let you get away with nothing. We're not, but this ego defensive part of our attitude. If, for example, one way, let's talk about how children are. Children might defend themselves against the feelings of humiliation if they experience, like, for example, something in PE. Okay, they may say, I don't like this sport because maybe they didn't do too well in it. I don't like track and field because maybe they didn't do too much. So that's an ego defensive type of behavior. Another example is what is it? This one's let's just leave it with that. Oh, no. Let's talk about what adults. When Tanita said yes in my windy voice. Yes. Let's talk about adults. Rejection. You thinking, I'm not talking about us married folk, and you can even apply it even in marriage. You're thinking that maybe the significant other is giving you specific vibes on something. You just use your imagination, giving you specific vibes, and then all of a sudden you find out that wasn't the vibe, the vibe you thought that they was giving wasn't it. And then you feeling like, oh, well, I didn't want to, bother them anyway. That's that ego defense right there. That's that, that was that ego defensive type stuff, and it's just something that's natural. It's something that is it's just natural for us. So the basic idea behind the functional approach is that attitudes help a person to mediate between their own inner needs, which their expression and defenses, and the outside world, which is adaptive and knowledge. So some adaptive is something that you experience. It's an experience, and the knowledge is stuff is what you definitely know. Is what you definitely know. So hey, Ahmad, how are you? So we have went over our 4 functions of the attitude: the knowledge, the self-ego expression, the adaptive part of it, and our ego defensive. And then we've also went over our attitude strengths, which is personal relevance and then knowledge. And then above, we learned about our structure of our attitudes, the ABCs, called the ABC model of attitudes: your affective component, your behavioral component, and then your cognitive component. Our time is almost up, but I wanted to leave this with you all. I wanted to read this, and it's called About Assumptions. And I like to read and do a lot of research, but this is called Assumptions. And it says, one of the hardest yet most rewarding decisions that we can make is to give up assumptions. Human nature tends to automatically assume the worst in other people until evidence indicates that we can assume the best. So the problem is people tend to live up to our assumptions of them, unfortunately. So a lot of times if we look at somebody and we say that person ain't no good, so a lot of times, sometimes they're not. They're just not. But if we choose to assume the best in other people, we will be for them, and then we can treat them a little bit better, a little more well, and we can encourage them as well. So if we assume the worst, our hearts will become bitter, and as the Bible says, a stranger will not share its joy. So as our face reflects the face, they will most likely return whatever sentiments that we choose to share with them. All right. So Mr. Ralph Waldo Emerson once said, to treat a man as he is, and he will remain as he is. But if you treat a man as he could be, he will become what he should be. And I really, really do like that. Maya Angelou made a statement years ago that when a person shows you who they are, believe them. And naturally so, yes. If a person shows you that they're just really out of control and over the top, and they're a danger to not just themselves, but to you too, then I'm going to tell you, yes, believe who they are. Believe who they are. But if a person has some slight errors, which we all do, none of us are perfect. None of us are perfect. As long as we live on this earth, we will never be perfect. So when we see some imperfections in people, like Mr. Ralph Waldo Emerson said, if we kind of treat people with potential, who we know they can be, then a lot of times you will see them become a better person. So I wanted to just read that about assumptions. And it also said, it ended by saying, consider this: the worst distance between two people is a misunderstanding. I'm going to say that again. It says, consider this: the worst distance between two people is a misunderstanding. So I want to leave y'all with this quote. It says, whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and we nourish it with repetition and emotion, will one day become a reality. And that is by Mr. Earl Nightingale. Oh, my time is up. My time is up. I hear my time is up. So I'm going to say that one more time. The quote says, whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and we nourish with repetition and emotion will one day become a reality. I used to watch The View a lot with Joy Behar and Whoopi Goldberg and them. And Joy Behar said something that really, really hit home. It really, really did hit home. She said that she used to say all the time, she's on her second marriage. She said she used to say all the time that she was going to, with her first marriage, if stuff didn't get better, that she was going to divorce her husband. She was going to divorce him. She was going to divorce him. And she said, and guess what? She said, and I divorced him. And she said, you know, I kept saying it and it happened. That's what she said. I kept saying it and it happened. So she said she learned with her second marriage, she learned not to say that anymore. She wouldn't keep saying that I'm going to divorce you because of this, that, and the other. And she said, and she's been married to her husband, her most current husband, for a good while because she learned how to stop speaking and saying those things. So I know it's easier said than done, guys. And I'm not just speaking it. I'm not just telling you all to do this, whatever. But I'm telling you, if we can just do this, what this quote said, whatever we plant in our subconscious and mind, and if we nourish it, and if we keep repeating it, and our emotions keep reflecting it, one day these negative things will become a reality. And we don't want that. We want our lives to be happy, healthy, and productive. That's what I mean. Life is hard as it is, but you know what? We can still be happy, healthy, and productive in our lives with this. So our time is up. Let me see, did anybody say anything? I put some things in the feed for you all to read. But I'm going to end it with our theme song, and I'll see you on Thursday. Thank you all for coming and participating tonight. God bless you all. And good night. I do not own the rights to this song. I do not own the music to this song. This is our theme song for the month, Emotions. Good night, and God bless you all. If anyone has any questions, you feel free to Facebook Messenger me if you want to privately ask me something, and we'll go from there. God bless you all. Good night. I forgot to put my speaker on, y'all. Hold on. Let me put it back on. Always. Good night, y'all. Good night. Yes. This is our theme song. I do not own the right to it. Good night. See you Thursday night. God bless.